And we're back with another episode of the CFT Fitcast. We are kicking off 2018. Yeah, it's only 2017. But to remind everybody, this episode is being recorded now to be posted for the first week of 2018. So we're going to talk about New Year. We're going to talk about what's going on. And we're talking about the holidays and stuff like that. Matt's over here drinking his RX drink. Chris has got his regular Fit Aid. I've got my very clearly I don't work out Life Aid because I don't really travel either, so I have no excuse here. Anyway, moving on. Let's introduce our guest. Who are you and why are you here?
I'm not really sure why I'm here, but I'm Chris.
You want to tell us about yourself? 30-second rundown, elevator pitch.
I mean,
tell us what you tell the girls at the bar.
Yeah.
Man, you don't want to hear the shit I say at the bars. But, I'm a member here at CFT. I get my training in here at CFT. I follow TZ Strength.
Shouts out.
Name drop.
Yeah, I've been in CrossFit for about, I want to say 7 years now, training, and do a little bit of coaching as well. And I recently just got into working with a new gym out in Modesto and a new community out there. So CFT is always my home, but that's kind of where I'm at now. And
give that gym a shout out.
CrossFit Quake. CrossFit Quake. That's my new gym.
What's the Instagram handle? At CrossFit Quake?
At CrossFit Quake.
There you
That's
go.
it.
Easy peasy. Matt, what's going on over there across the table? I feel like we're so far away today.
Oh, not a whole lot. You know, just hanging out with C. Minten here. The man himself works out more than anybody I know. Probably more than Rich Froning. So you've come a long way, and you're fit. We're going to talk a lot about your fitness and kind of how you got to where you are and what your overall goals are. I guess let's go ahead and get started from where you came from. Like, what got you into CrossFit, and what type of physical attributes were you in, or did you have whenever you first started?
So I was doing a lot of the bodybuilding kind of stuff way back. I want to say 2009, 2010, doing the bodybuilding type of program and even some personal training. And I looked okay, and I would get decent results, but you know, I never had the six-pack that I wanted. I never really felt like I was actually all that fit. I just had some arms and some chest and
just swole.
Yeah, I was a little swole. I was a gym bro, you know, that was my
Me
thing.
too.
Like I could curl and I could bench, but I wasn't
You curled the 40s, 50s?
Man, I don't know. I used to put like 45s on a barbell.
That's right.
And you know, if somebody asked me to spot them, I'd take it off them and start curling it. You know, that was my jam, but that was all I had. You know, I couldn't really do anything else. So I would see CrossFit over the years, and I kind of thought it was dumb. Like, honestly, I thought and all my friends thought it was dumb. So I thought, CrossFit's dumb, and I just brushed it off. And then after a while, I realized that those guys have six-packs, and they can do a lot more than I can. So maybe there's something to it, and maybe I should give it a shot.
And they're jacked.
Yeah, they're freaking jacked, and I wasn't. So I got into CrossFit, and eventually I came to what was back then West Valley CrossFit in 2011, and then soon after became CrossFit Tracy. And I got started, but I didn't take it very seriously. So 2011, I was in there, but I was kind of half-assing it. I was trying to stay with my own old ways, but kind of use CrossFit on top of that to get a little bit of different results. Mm-hmm. And you know, the fact was if you go in half-assed, I thought, well, maybe I'd get half-assed results, but I really got no results, you know. And at some point, and actually during that first year, I was eating like shit and drinking a lot, and so I started gaining a lot of weight during that first year at CrossFit. And towards the end of that year, I had gained something ridiculous. I was in a phase of life where I was just eating a lot. I don't know what happened, but I gained like 50 pounds. And if anybody ever seen my before and after, that was where I got to that top of about 285. And I hit a point where I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I'm sick of this. And I don't really know exactly what to do, but I know that I haven't given CrossFit a real chance. I kind of just have bullshitted it. So I'm going to give it a real chance. And at the end of 2011, I started training seriously. I started going at least 5 days a week. I did the diet that they usually prescribe, which back then was Paleo, was usually the main one that they said to go for. So I started doing Paleo, and I started seeing results. And from there, I just kept going. you know, and a lot of people started with me, but I think the only difference of where I am now compared to back then is you know, with some other people that started with me, is I just never stopped. So that was kind of the beginning of the journey there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get tied up with trying to get results really fast.
Yeah.
And they don't understand or realize that there's a long road in the process to get the road to gains, right? You're trying to be the best version of yourself. You have a vision in your mind of what you want yourself to look like, but people don't realize the time necessary along with the work that it's going to come with it.
Yeah.
So you've been chipping away at this for quite some time.
Going on about 7 years now.
I also don't think people take into consideration how easy it is to lose it. So you can put 6 months of work in and lose half of that in a month if you take your eye off the ball. So I think a lot of people, they see results like, oh, awesome, I can take my foot off the pedal a little bit, back off, kind of enjoy this month, enjoy that, enjoy summer, enjoy this, enjoy vacation that turns into a month or two later, and they open their eyes again and they've gained most of their weight back, and it's real hard to get that motivation back again because they know how much work went into getting them to where they were at.
Absolutely.
Have you battled that at all?
You know, I've never had a long period of time in which I fell off of my training. I have had long periods of time where I felt like my training wasn't actually getting me any results. And those were the real difficult times to just push through. And those were the times that I had to fight to get myself to keep showing up. I will say, though, with nutrition and on the diet side of things, I have definitely had times where I completely fell off of my diet. But I think what kept me from yo-yoing like I had in the past, you know, because I've had a lot of times where I'd lose 30 pounds and I'd gain 30 pounds back. Or I'd lose 80 pounds and I'd gain 80 pounds back. I mean, I've gone from 280 to 200 pounds twice in my life. And I've gone from 240 to 210 5 or 6 times since I was in high school. But what made the difference with CrossFit was that my goals in CrossFit were independent from my goals with nutrition and losing fat and how my body looked. So falling off of my diet had nothing to do with PRing my deadlift, and falling off of my diet had nothing to do with if I was going to PR my mile or if I was going to be able to climb a rope or do a muscle up. Body weight matters for sure, but training is training, and training is what's going to get me to those CrossFit goals. So, you know, I'd be off of my diet for 5 or 6 months just struggling to get back on it because I did want to lose some body fat, but I trained all the way through. And that's, I think, was the key from keeping me from yo-yoing back up to the weights. It helped me keep my weight down even though I wasn't eating great.
So like The Rock says, you feel like your training is your anchor. So that's the kind of thing keeping you anchored towards your goal, not kind of letting you fall apart or float off into the distance.
Absolutely.
I know back then you probably did your own programming. Now you're a TZ athlete. How long have you been doing the TZ program?
Yeah, so I actually, way back, I did a program called Outlaw, and it's kind of an old school thing. It's still around, but it's not as popular. Yeah, it was real popular back then. And if anybody's been around, 5 or 6 years in CrossFit, they probably be familiar with Outlaw. So I did that, and I honestly probably wasn't ready to do it, but I just did the best I could, and I saw some decent results. But because it was an advanced program and I was not an advanced athlete, it left some huge holes in my training.
Did you follow just the blog workouts, or did you pay to do personalized?
Yeah, I was just following the blog.
Okay.
And eventually I met Jacob, who is the programmer of TZ Strength, and I found that he was doing a more customized approach. Although he can write workouts for regional athletes and games athletes, and he was able to take the foundation of that program and then modify it to work for what I needed. And so I needed to get my first muscle up. I needed to go from no handstand push-ups, being able to do one handstand push-up up to 5 handstand push-ups, things like that. And that's not something that you're going to find in a program that's on a blog that's written for advanced athletes.
Exactly.
So I found him in, I want to say the beginning of 2014 was when I started with him. And within 2 months, I had got my first muscle up. And I think in the Open that year, I was somewhere around like 1,400 overall, maybe 1,200 in the Open. And then it's actually kind of nice that I started with him right before the Open, because every year since then, we look at how I do in the open, and we can see the progress that I've made working with TZ.
Where are you at now? Where was you at last year?
Last year,
you top 4.
Last year I
400?
was, I think I was 308, something like that, somewhere around there, give or take. Yeah, and actually year over year it went from somewhere around 1,200 to 800 to 400 to 300. So, and obviously it's going to get harder as you get closer, to the top, but I was still happy to see that progress.
Well, it never gets easier. You just get better.
Exactly.
Right? Kind of like running. Running never gets easier. You just run faster.
Yeah, true. It's still pretty awful.
Are you at this point, are you just picking athletes you're trying to beat regionally or overall? Since, I mean, obviously the jump isn't going to be as substantial anymore. Or do you have people you're kind of eyeballing in terms of, you don't have to name them if you don't want to, but I mean, do you have athletes that you're kind of eyeballing in terms of where you finished last year versus them more as a goal rather than like, oh, I'm going to try to get in the top 250 or whatever?
Yeah, sure. There's definitely a few athletes that I know. I would only go with people that I know and that I have trained with, because I kind of understand them as athletes. I understand how they train, and I understand what kind of progress they can make. So I definitely like to look at these athletes that I know personally and kind of compare my progress year over year to their progress year over year. And yeah, if I was close to them last year, like if I was 308 and they were 270 something, for sure I'd look at trying to beat them in the following Open if I could. And I don't think I get too obsessed with that, but it is something that is it maybe gives you a little extra push in your day to day, just to keep you on top of things with your training and make sure that you're paying more attention to your recovery and to your nutrition to get all the pieces in place. Sometimes you just get lazy, but that little extra motivation of competition can get you to move a little more.
A little extra something. Yeah,
for sure.
So let's get back into nutrition. So how long have you been doing, I think you're doing what, RP? You still do RP?
RP.
What were you doing? Like, how did you kind of program, I guess, your nutrition versus, and then what made you make the decision to switch it up for something more formal, scientific?
So I started with the paleo, which for me was pretty much low carb, or as people are doing now, they call it keto. But I mean, keto to me is basically you're doing low carb. Like I was doing Atkins when I was 14, and I was eating like 10 carbs a day. Like I was doing keto pretty much. But what I found with that was that, or let me go back to where I started. So 285, I was doing paleo. I was just cutting carbs out really, and like eating bacon and steak and stuff. And with the carbs gone, I was losing a lot of weight. So I got down to about 235, but as my weight was going down, my training was going up. So my volume started getting real high, and I found that I wasn't losing weight anymore. And I think part of the problem with that was that when you're doing something like paleo or any type of diet that doesn't restrict the amount you eat, it just restricts the types of foods you eat. It might happen to other people. It definitely happened to me, in that I got really good at eating the foods that I'm allowed to eat. And what I mean by that is I figured out how to eat a lot of these foods. And even if you're cutting out carbs, if I'm eating 6,000 calories of fat and protein, it's still too damn much.
Yeah.
So that was where I messed up with that. But regardless, my training wasn't feeling too great anymore. And, I started talking to a coach that would just coach people on flexible dieting, on counting macros. And she taught me how to count macros, and I started eating carbs again, and I was scared to death of carbs. I thought, I'm going to be fat as shit. You got me eating 250 carbs a day, and I'm used to eating 20. Like, this isn't going to work.
Right.
But what I found happened was my training improved. I felt a lot better in my training, and I was still able to continue to lose fat. And so that's what got me through my plateau. So I lost my first 50 pounds just cutting carbs, and it worked fine because my volume wasn't that high in training. My intensity wasn't that high in training. So I don't think I needed the carbs that much. But as I got into higher volume and more training, my body was like ready for carbs. It was necessary.
Yeah.
And so that got me to the next level. I did that for about a year, and then that plateaued. So I lost another 15 pounds, and that just stopped working. And then I thought, okay, well, let's try something different. Let's go
in
RP.
Regards of performance or weight loss?
Weight loss stopped. I kept trying to cut calories, and it just wasn't really doing it anymore. and my performance was starting to suffer because of the calories going lower.
Trying to cut.
Yeah, and so I heard about RP, and I thought, all right, let's give this a shot. And so that was, I want to say 2015, I started with RP. And what I found with RP was not only did I start losing weight again very quickly, but I also noticed that my training was going from feeling good or feeling like shit. It was kind of a coin toss. Like 50% of the time I felt great. 50% of the time my day just felt like shit.
Hit or miss each day.
Awful training. Yeah. It went from that to about 90-10, 90 being the good days where I felt strong, I felt fast, and I felt like I had a good training session. And that 10% was the exception. Every once in a while I'd feel bad. But because the nutrition was so consistent and so targeted to what I was doing, my results just went through the roof while cutting fat lower than I'd ever done before. So it was very effective.
2 birds in 1 stone.
Yeah.
So what type of macros are you working with now?
So right now I'm actually towards the end of a cut, and so they're pretty low. Like right now I'm getting about 200 grams of protein per day, and carbs about 200 to 250. Well, normally I'm going to be well above 300 if I'm not cutting. Fat's really low. Fat's around 40 to 50, which is low for me. But this is probably about as low as I'm going to go. And my goal was just to get under 200 pounds, just for the sake of being able to move faster and make the gymnastics
more
a little
pull-ups,
bit.
more muscle ups.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy runs.
Yeah, and you know, abs are cool too.
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna say that's not part of it, but
he's got a nice 6-pack. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
So definitely, I mean, aesthetics always matter, but I want to be under 200 for the sake of getting faster in my WODs, and I'm about there. So as soon as these macros start to slow down in the weight loss, then I'm gonna switch back to maintenance, up my carbs to over 300, and just maintain there for a while.
Nice.
You're basically trying to maintain there through the open.
Yeah,
performance.
Yeah, that was really the plan, was get my weight down and then start upping my calories and upping basically carbs and calories overall, so that I can boost my performance and recover from the diet deficit, because you definitely need to recover from dieting. You know, I think that's one thing that a lot of people get wrong, is that diet endlessly. And with RP, 12 weeks max if you're going to cut. Or if you're going to be losing weight, 12 weeks max, then recover, then go back into a cut. So for me, 12 weeks, I'm going to be at 12 weeks in January, and then I'll go back into recovery. I'll do that all the way through the open, and then if needed, go into another cut after, or just keep maintaining.
That's solid stuff. So let's go into the other side of this. So you not only are an athlete, but you're also a coach.
Yes.
What's the background on that? How long you been coaching? What's your aim for coaching? What's your specialty? That type of thing. Give us some rundown on that.
So I did some personal training when I was about 19. I got into personal training at one of the Globo gyms in town here, and I really, I learned a little bit. I mean, I learned how to kind of some coaching skills, but the actual things that I would use in my programs back then, they're all out the window now. I don't use any of that stuff, but I learned a little bit. I kind of learned how to be professional. I'm still not very professional, but.
So you don't program bench press anymore?
Every once in a while.
Machine shoulder presses?
No, none of that
calf
stuff.
extensions?
No, I'm all CrossFit now. Yeah. But I after I went to CrossFit, so actually I had clients at a Fitness 19 in town, and when I started CrossFit, I still had clients there, and eventually I told them you don't got to pay me anymore, just go to CrossFit. Just go to that class, you'll get better results, because I really did believe in CrossFit over doing the stuff in the Globo gym, the bodybuilding style stuff, at least for the people that I was working with, for their goals. I thought CrossFit will get you there faster. So I literally just sent them to CrossFit Tracy, and some of them are actually still members here. One of them's Christina. Yep. Yeah, and she knows me from way back then. She likes to talk about what an idiot I was back then. I was 21, showing up hungover and shit. But from there, I went into CrossFit, and at the time, the owner of CrossFit Tracy really needed more coaches, and I went and got certified right away just for my own knowledge because I was interested. I love learning about, fitness and coaching. And he says, hey, man, you want to coach? I said, yeah. And this was actually at the time when I was gaining all that weight. But I was still doing some powerlifting training, and I quickly got stronger than a lot of the people at the gym. So it gave me a little credibility. So he's like, hey, you can coach. You're like our powerlifting guy. I still didn't really know shit about powerlifting, but I was stronger. So whatever, let me coach.
Right.
So they kind of was just like, they just threw me in and I just learned as I went. And it was fine. Like I really, because if you throw me in a situation like that, I really feel like I need to step it up. Like if these people are going to be relying on me to coach, then I'm going to coach the shit out of them. I'm going to do the best I can. So it really motivated me to go out and start learning how to be a better coach. From there, I just kept growing and growing. Eventually I had, become the owner of CrossFit Tracy, and that even put more of the pressure on me to be better, because I thought, if I want this gym to grow, I need to be a great example and I need to do a really good job of coaching. So that really motivated me. I felt like I got eyes on me and I want to prove myself. And so one of the best things that I ever did was I went to the level 2 certification way back then. I think it was 2013, and I came back like ready to just come in and like kill it as a coach. And
I'd argue to say the best thing you ever did was hire a coach from Kentucky.
Oh, KY Matt.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I mean,
this guy hired me.
I don't know.
I did hire you.
I'm beginning to regret that ever happening at this point, but we'll get into that another day.
I actually remember when Carrie told me that you I think you wrote an email.
I did.
And called.
I did.
And I totally brushed it off. I was like, nah, we don't got room for any coaches. I completely brushed it off. And then I met you and I thought, man, he's really good. I'm kind of a dick.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
Yeah, no, but definitely you were a huge addition to the staff. Like,
thanks,
absolutely.
man.
Absolutely.
I got friends.
So I think, at this point, I actually just went to the level 2 again, and it's been 5 years now, and I say that it still is the best CrossFit seminar I've been to. A lot of the other ones they specialize in these other things, and they're great, but this one, like, if you want to be a good coach, level 2 is where you go to learn to be a good coach. So, for a while I was doing one-on-one stuff, and I really like one-on-one stuff because I can dig in on people's skills. I can make them better at the skills as opposed to just working with a class and sometimes working with a class, you can cue them and you can coach them, but you can only do so much with a group. And it's great. You can still help people a lot, but with one person, it's like I can really be relentless and make them good. So I was doing that for a while, but now getting back into the classes with this new gym in Modesto with CrossFit Quake, I'm really finding that love for working with the groups again. So I'm loving it so far.
That's awesome.
I'm the same way. I go both ways. I like to work in the group setting because, like you said, it's all about general fitness at that point, where you're just all around trying to be good at a lot of different things, and it's a great way to work on a lot of different aspects. But majority of the people have weaknesses, specific weaknesses to them, and it's really hard to work on them in a group setting, and for them to be able to accomplish those weaknesses and make them strengths in a group setting versus one-on-one or even little. I know you do a lot of small group training where you got like 2 or 3 people and they all have similar goals. It's a great way to work on weaknesses and make them strengths really, really quickly. Yeah, at a much quicker pace.
Yeah, and I love working with the small groups as well because it sometimes working with one client might make me micromanage them, and sometimes you just need to give them a cue and let them kind of figure that out on their own. Like, I'm going to watch you and see if you're improving it, but I don't need to sit here and fix everything. You need to work on that one thing before I start picking on another thing. So with the small group, it's like, here's the thing to work on. Let me see you do it. Okay, keep working on that. Go to the next person, and then go to the next person, and then come back around to them. And it allows them to get my eyes off of them for a minute so they can, get the pressure off and just take a minute to work on it, which I think helps. So I really do like the small groups a lot.
And they're a lot friendlier on the pocketbook, right?
Absolutely.
Save so much more money getting for the client to bring in a friend or two and share the cost.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, with a group of 3, they're still getting an hour of coaching from me, but they're ending up with half the cost per person compared to if they were working on their own.
With the same amount of quality.
Yeah, and that's great because I really want them to be able to do this for a long period of time with me so I can actually get them some results. Because while we can get quick results, some things are not going to be quick. They're a process. And the fact is a lot of people have a hard time sticking to the process because they're not sure if it's going to work. So they won't do it on their own. Whereas with me, it's like, I don't really care if you're sure it's going to work. Like, you don't need to believe in it. Like, I know it's going to work. So you're just going to show up and do what you're told.
Yeah.
And they do. And so they get the results.
Yeah, I think that was Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit's entire intentions at the beginning, right? He was a personal trainer that realized small group training, one, lowered the price, so he was able to help more people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he found there was a common collective goal there of just being more fit. So what better way to help a multitude of people be more fit by, one, lowering their price by putting them in small groups, but two, building that community within each other, because now they're showing up their own accountability, like we talked about last week, in terms of now they're in this small group where they're accountable to each other because they all know, hey, we're scheduled for this training session. If you don't show up, now it's just me. I got to pay for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's a lot more accountability there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think that's a big thing, right? I think that's why we also developed our hybrid program, because when we looked at everything, we realized group methodology is awesome and it's going to get you fit.
Yeah.
But eventually, fitness no longer is the main goal. It becomes something much more finite, something much more focused. Like, I got to get my first pull-up, or I have to get my clean to 200 pounds, or my 300-pound deadlift, or, you know, a muscle-up. And it becomes something very, very focused. And that's not something in a group setting where you're in a class of 10 or 12 people. You can really hone in on that in a 15, 20-minute skill session. That's where a hybrid program, where it includes your group fitness, so you can focus on your just general overall fitness and health and well-being, but then you also have your personal training or your small group classes where you can focus on that specific goal, and maybe in a small group where you have other like-minded people trying to, you know, get to that same goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think that little bit of extra time is huge in giving you an exponential level of results. Just that little extra time that you can put in a small group or one-on-one will completely change how quickly you get the results. I think it's huge. Absolutely.
Right, because you get to that point where, you know, it might just be a muscle group that needs focus that's just weak.
Yeah.
Triceps are weak. It's going to affect your dip.
For sure.
You know, things like that. If you build that particular muscle group, you build your lats for pull-ups, or you build this for, you know, so such and so forth. All of a sudden, that was the little thing that you needed to punch through the door.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I always tell people, don't settle yourself down into one or the other. If you love personal training, that's awesome. I still recommend going into group classes because it's enjoyable. It's a great group environment. It's exciting. It will help you with your general overall fitness on those days you just really don't want to get up and go because you have that accountability group. But at the same time, you know, if you have those specific goals, very, very focused goals, you need personal training to get there. You're not going to get there on your own without help, or at least without a coach looking at it when it comes to a skill that requires skilled movement.
True. Yeah.
So I guess let's close it out with, we're not close it out yet, but let's talk lastly about what are your goals? Why do you do all these things? Why do you take your nutrition so seriously to pay someone to write it for you? Why do you get TZ or Jacob from TZ to write your programming specifically for you? What are you looking for?
And more specifically, just
seeking?
to add on to that, being that this is the first episode of 2018, what are your 2018 goals? I mean, what are your 2018 open goals, and what are your specific goals in terms of fitness and competition in 2018?
Okay, so I'll start with why do I do it? What do I get out of it?
Other than you look sexy.
Yeah, well, looking good and looking sexy is
Looking good naked's always good.
Yeah, looking good naked is not a downside of it, that's for sure. And I'll say that there's definitely layers. There's layers to that answer, and there's different parts of me that get different things from what I do. Mm-hmm. One of them is as a coach and as a gym owner and just as an athlete, like I want credibility, and I feel like I get the most out of my coaching by being somebody that they look at and they're like, this guy's been through this shit, you know. And I don't necessarily think that it's a mandatory thing, but I think that it's something that goes in line with my other goals, so that's what I do, you know. But also, I just love it. Like, I love training. People say, you know, why don't you compete more? It's like, I don't even care. I just like to train. You know, what if are you trying to make it to regionals? Like, well, it's a good goal, sure, to go become a regionals athlete, but would I give a shit if I didn't make it to regionals? I don't care. you know, it's one of the things even I hashtag sometimes when I post pictures. It's just, we love this shit. Because it's true. I love this shit. And I will train every day. I hate not training. I hate missing it. I just like it. Another part of it is, yeah, looks like I like to look a certain way. I was like an obese child. I grew up overweight, so I always had dreams of having abs and things like that. And so sure, there's some ego and pride that goes along with it. Oh, yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to look good, even if it's not ego or pride. Like, it just feels good. And so I'm always working on my body and how it looks with nutrition and training, for sure. Another side of it is just being healthy and having more energy. Like, I felt like shit when I was overweight, and now I feel great. Like, I can get through a whole day out on a day trip with my daughter or with whoever and just have fun and not feel like I need to take a nap in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. And that's huge. And then also just seeing what my body can do. What is it capable of? Like, I had just kind of had a vision. I want to be able to do, like, I want to come in and do 5 muscle ups, no problem. When I was a big guy, I couldn't even imagine doing that. But now I can do something like that, and I feel really good about being able to do that. I want to be able to run a mile in under 6 minutes. I want to be able to snatch 250 pounds. Like, I just enjoy chasing those goals, and I enjoy getting to those goals. So kind of all those things fold in together to just make it into something that, for me, it's harder to not do than to do daily. Like, training is just part of my life that I really enjoy. When I don't train on a day,
you'd have a hard time not doing it.
Yeah, I have a hard time not training. Like, I'm not going to go to the gym today. What the hell? Like, what am I going to do? That's part of my day.
I think that's much more healthier mindset versus I'm trying to go to the games. Therefore, I have to work out 3 hours a day.
Yeah, no. If you have to do it, then if you have to, then you might be in it for the wrong reasons. And I also would say that a lot of people say to me, so, you're not like, you don't have fun when you train, like, because people like to mess around and goof around, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I just train, and I'm like, well, training is fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it is fun to me, all of it. I could have a straight face the whole time I'm training, but I'm having fun while I'm training. It's an enjoyable thing. And another thing, they talk about sacrifice. Like, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything to train. No. Because if I had to stop training, that would be a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. If I had to stop training because I was busy in my business, that would be a sacrifice. So that's just my mindset on it. Goals for 2018. One thing that they point out that always gets pointed out on me when I go to these CrossFit certifications is that I kind of move like shit in a lot of ways, and I can hide it by putting on, what's that?
Like putting on your seatbelt?
Yeah, like putting on my seatbelt. Inside joke. Matt was sitting behind me in a car.
They know. It was last
and I went, did you already talk about this
episode,
on the podcast?
For sure I did.
And worst thing you'd ever believe, I tried to get in the car with Dean yesterday, and I had a hard time grabbing the seatbelt. Yeah. Thankfully, he wasn't looking, though.
I can't grab the damn seatbelt.
He's like, Matt, can you hand me my seatbelt?
Yeah. I have mobility Matt behind me.
Your seatbelt, grown-ass man.
Yeah, mobility Matt behind me. I had to ask him to hand me the damn seatbelt. Yeah, I'm a little tight, and I can put some lifters on and put a belt on, and I can hide some of those issues. But, when you go to your certifications, you don't get to hide your issues. And they, what they say is, if you can't move well with a PVC pipe, then you can't move well. Mm-hmm. So you can put some weight on you and it'll push you into those positions. Mm-hmm. But if you can't do it with a PVC pipe, your body has issues that need to be fixed. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've been building capacity on top of dysfunction for so long that it's starting to show up in ways that are affecting my training. For instance, I have a back issue right now. I haven't been able to touch a barbell in 6 weeks. Because I have a back issue that just comes from these dysfunctions in movement that I have. So top priority 2018, definitely fix these dysfunctions, right? Get them fixed so that I can get back to training at my full capacity, injury-free. Also maintaining weight. I'm really good at cutting weight. I'm good at getting my little six-pack going, but I'm also really good at gaining weight back right after. Not a ton because I keep training, but I gain 5 to 10 pounds back. And
that's a lot in gymnastics.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So maintaining weight, learning how to maintain and not do that little yo-yo, it's a huge thing for me in 2018. As far as the open goes, I mean, who knows? I don't know if I'm going to be healthy enough to perform as well as I'd like because of my back, but, I'm hoping that this heals up and I can get back to training full on. But if I am healthy when the open comes, then, of course, last year I was 300. I'd like to get me down to the twos, low twos in the open.
Mm-hmm. So last thing, if you could sum up in maybe a minute or two, if you're somebody that's coming into the open this year and you want to establish a baseline and you're real serious about doing well in the Open, how do you stack up this next, say, we'll call it 60 days until the Open? How do you line that up? What's your focus? Is it skill? Is it fixing skills? Is it building your motor and just focusing on getting more capacity, cardio, conditioning, whatever you want to call it? Or is it your diet? I mean, what is like a main focus if somebody can do in 60 days to see a significant change in their Open score?
Yeah, well, I'd say that it's it'll change from person to person, but there are some things that are going to apply to everybody. And one thing is, what movements can you do and what movements can you not do? Like, let's take a list of what movements are likely to be in the Open, and ask yourself, can I do that movement? And if I can't, can I put in a little extra work to maybe get that movement down by the time the Open comes? Like, things we're going to see show up: handstand push-ups, chest to bar pull-ups, bar muscle ups, ring muscle ups, overhead squat. Some people have mobility issues; they can't overhead squat. Things at least below parallel. If you've been, it's one of the great things about the Open is if you've been half-assing your overhead squats in class and not putting in the work to get yourself down below parallel, then that's not going to fly
on YouTube.
Yeah, so these are things you got to work on. You got to put in that little extra skill work to get these movements down so that you can RX them. Now, losing weight or having nutrition in place, that might be something that's going to help you get these gymnastic movements, lose a little bit of weight. I mean, you got 8 weeks, so let's drop 8 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds in that 8 weeks. That'll make a difference. Cardio always matters. The Open tends to be lighter on the weights, meaning you're going to have to move faster and you can't gas out. So, but that's going to be taken care of by just going to your classes. You go to class, maybe
go a little harder in class when you have the opportunities.
Yeah, get your intensity high. When the WODs come, get your intensity high.
Getting used to getting uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Because I think the one thing in the Open that people don't take into consideration, and sometimes you even forget until the Open comes again, is just how awful you feel at the end.
Awful.
Or even halfway through. And I think people, if you're not comfortable being in that position and feeling that way, it takes a lot of your effort out of the game, because you get to that point and you go, I don't know how to handle how I feel right now. So I think
everybody seems like those 15,
getting
20
uncomfortable,
minute
being
long
uncomfortable.
Workouts.
Yeah.
Those nice long workouts, you can kind of pace yourself. You can go a little slower. Everybody hates the 5-minute workouts, the 7-minute workouts. That's what the Open's all about. Those really fast workouts that hurt and burn, make you want to throw up.
I mean, even in the 20-minute Castro workouts, like last couple of years, we had the front rack lunges, overhead lunges. Ooh. Those workouts were crushing your soul 6 minutes in, even if you paced it well, and you had 14 minutes to go. You just had to suck it up and go. And that's, I think, the thing that people just don't know how to handle is when you get to that point, what do you do? Well, if you haven't been training it and forcing yourself into that uncomfortable position for the last 11 months, you're not going to know what to do, and your body's going to want you to quit, and so is your mind. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think nutrition is something you can control a little bit, but I think overall, if you pick that one skill you're close to getting, even if you need to grab a coach and do a couple 30-minute skill sessions, get that one skill that might be the difference between RX and scaled in a workout, and get really uncomfortable in the next 60 days. Force yourself when you have the opportunity, especially with TZ training, you get lots of opportunities. Get super uncomfortable, because you're going to be really uncomfortable in the Open.
Absolutely.
All right, we talked about a lot. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I think this is great. Loved having you on. Owner, CrossFit Quake. Coach, CFT Fitness. Member, CFT Fitness. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
At Chris_Minten. Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, sir.
Sharing a fit aid with us. Spreading the knowledge.
Thank you for the fit aid. Appreciate it.
Telling us all your secrets. I'm going to come for you now. I know all your secrets. I got to somehow figure out how to love training. Right now I'm in that place where I don't really love it.
Yeah, I'm right
I
there
can't
with
do
you.
it by myself like you.
My goal right now is top 300 in the gym. You guys are going to see me top 300 in the Open in the gym.
In the gym.
Get it.
Signing off. Cheers.
Cheers. You missed. Come on. There it is.
I'm trying to do it with the TV. It's hard. Cheers.